Hello, everybody. My name is Daryl Aldor. I'm the Worldwide Senior Sales Manager here at iDrive. And joining me today is our Enterprise Solutions Specialist, Joel Pinedo. Joel, thank you for joining us.
No problem, Daryl. Hello, everyone.
And today, we'll be talking about how iDrive E2 brings enterprise-grade immutable object storage to the Veeam data platform. We'll cover who we are, why our customers choose us, and how our solution helps make Veeam backups faster, more affordable, and more secure. So a little bit about iDrive. iDrive has been in the cloud storage and backup space for over 24 years. We serve SMBs, enterprises, education, and government customers. We support more than 5 million users worldwide, and we manage over an exabyte of data. We have 13 global data center locations in North America, Canada, Europe, and Southeast Asia. We're built for enterprise-grade workloads and regulatory compliance. Our data centers are SOC 2 Type 2 certified, and we have HIPAA, GDPR, as well as ISO 27001 and 2022 certifications. Our mission has always been to safeguard critical business data against disasters with scalable, secure cloud infrastructure. Veeam users need storage that is fast, reliable, secure, and cost-effective. iDrive E2 is S3 compatible, making it seamless to connect directly to Veeam endpoints. Our solution delivers high performance, global accessibility, and low latency to support fast backups and restores. Customers also benefit from cost savings. Our storage is a fraction of the price of legacy hyperscalers without compromising security or compliance. One of the biggest advantages of iDrive E2 is our 13 data center locations strategically placed across the US, Canada, Europe, and Asia. This global footprint gives customers the ability to store data close to where it's created, improving performance for Veeam backups and restores with lower latency. It also helps organizations meet data sovereignty requirements by choosing specific regions for compliance purposes. On top of that, we build in redundancy and resilience, ensuring that customer data is protected against failures and accessible when it's needed most. Together, this infrastructure gives Veeam users both speed and peace of mind when it comes to protecting their critical workloads. Let's look at some of the features that make iDrive E2 a strong fit for Veeam users. Object lock for immutability prevents backups from being deleted or altered during the retention period. Versioning and custom retention policies. Maintain historical data and align with your compliance needs. Replication and geo-redundancy, ensuring resilience across multiple regions. Audit logging and MFA security for complete visibility and protection. These features make it easy to adhere to Veeam's 32110 backup rule. With object lock for immutability enabled, you can be assured your data is protected. It ensures nobody can delete, alter, or overwrite the objects that have been designated immutable until the end of the retention period. We support both compliance mode and governance mode retention settings. And to make things even more compelling, we offer Veeam users a special limited time price promotion. 1 terabyte for $19.75 for the first year, all the way up to 100 terabytes for $1,975 for the first year. That's 50% off list pricing for year 1. Plus, you can start with a free 7-day trial. Our goal is to make enterprise-grade immutable cloud storage not only more secure, but also significantly more affordable. Now, I'm going to pass it over to Joel so he can continue with the technical aspect of today's webinar.
Thank you very much, Daryl. Before we get started on the Veeam and IDrive V2 integration technical demo, let's go over some concepts and a brief overview of what iDrive V2 is and where it fits in a backup strategy so that we can strengthen and secure backups from ransomware. Backups are a main component to protect against ransomware. They provide a method to quickly recover from a ransomware attack. This is where Veeam comes in. Veeam is a market leader in ransomware protection and data resilience through their backup software solutions. However, backups are only as good as the procedures in place. And Veeam's golden rule gives us a good example on how to structure a backup strategy. Let's go over Veeam's golden 32110 rule. So what is it? Veeam's golden 32110 rule is a rule that Veeam recommends for a backup strategy. This rule consists of 5 numbers. Let's break each of the numbers down one by one so that we get a full understanding. The first number, the number 3, stands for 3 copies of data. The original data and 2 additional copies. This is a local and then an offsite copy as well. The number 2 stands for 2 different media types. Some examples could be external disks, tapes, object storage. The first number 1 stands for 1 copy offsite. This means keeping a backup copy in a different physical location to where the original data is being housed. The second number 1 stands for 1 copy offline. So this is a copy that is not connected to information or communications infrastructure. It's completely offline, also known as an air-gapped backup. And then an alternative to that offline copy could also be immutable backup. So immutable backups help prevent attackers from modifying or deleting data. The last number, it would be the number 0, and that stands for 0 errors. So what good are backups if we can't restore them? For this reason, backups need to be regularly checked and made sure that they are free of any errors. Restore tests must also be done on a regular basis to ensure that the rollback works just as expected. In summary, this rule provides a solid foundation on what needs to be thought out in a backup strategy. Next up, what is iDrive V2 and where does it fit in a backup strategy? So iDrive V2 is Amazon S3 compatible object storage that is in Veeam Ready for immutability. iDrive V2 can meet the criteria of being an offsite copy, different type of media, in this case it's object storage, as well as an immutable backup. So of this criteria list, let's key in on immutability and discuss object lock. What is object lock? Object lock is a feature that prevents modification or deletion of data for a set period of time. This feature is available in iDrive V2 and allows for immutable backups that can help prevent attackers from modifying and deleting the data. Now that we've elaborated on the concepts, let's go over how we can strengthen and secure backups from ransomware with Veeam and iDrive V2 through a technical demo. In this demo, we'll go over the following. We're going to add an iDrive V2 bucket as a backup repository in Veeam with immutability enabled. We're going to create a Veeam backup job to a backup repository and have iDrive V2 as the bucket as a destination. And most importantly, we're going to demonstrate immutability through the iDrive V2 platform. Some prerequisites for this demo are going to be an iDrive V2 bucket with object lock enabled, a generated access key for that iDrive V2 bucket, and then last but not least, we're going to have a Windows server with Veeam Backup and Replication version 12 installed. All right, without further ado, let's get started on that demo by sharing my screen. This will take a minute or two to get set up, so let me go ahead and get started on that. All right. I'm going to share my entire screen. All right, and let me go ahead and, all right, so this, what we're looking at right now, I am remoted in to a machine that has Windows Server installed, as well as the Veeam Backup and Replication version 12 installed. All right, so primarily we're going to be focused on here is 2 tabs. So that's going to be the home as well as the backup infrastructure tabs. So what we're first gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and add an iDrive E2 bucket. For the sake of the demo, I went ahead and already done that. Otherwise, we'd be sitting here for a while for that download to finish. So let's go ahead and we're going to edit this bucket and go through the step-by-step setup process here if you are adding it for the first time. All right, so you're going to see this window pop up when we're adding the object storage repository. So what we're going to do is we're going to name this. And for the sake of the demo, I went ahead and named it my name. I put Veeam bucket. I'm going to go ahead and hit next, but that can be named to whatever you like. All right, now what you're seeing here is a few options. All these options are going to be done through this E2 dashboard. So what you're going to do is you're going to generate an access key for this bucket. And when you generate that access key is where you'll see those options. So you're going to see the service point address here, and then you're going to have the credentials as well. When you add the credentials, it'll be an access key and a secret key that you need to input. So you're just copying and pasting that information here when you do generate that key from the E2 platform. Now, because it's the demo, I already went ahead and done that, and I've copied and pasted that information. But there is one thing that we're missing, and that is the region code. So this region code, it depends on what region the bucket is located. And that information can be obtained through our developer's guide webpage. You'll see which region abides to what. So for this bucket here, let's go back, this Veeam test bucket, you can see that the region is Los Angeles. So what I've done is I've just copied and pasted this region code for Los Angeles back here and put that information. We're going to leave this connection mode at the default settings. So it's going to be direct. And then we hit next. Let's wait for that to populate. And now what we're greeted with is some other options for the bucket. The most important thing in this window that you're going to see here is that automatic bucket creation. So what Veeam does is it will try and automatically create a bucket depending on the platform that you use. For iDrive E2, everything is managed through the dashboard here. So we create buckets through the E2 dashboard. And because of that reason, we're going to go ahead and make sure that that option is disabled, because everything is going to be managed through iDrive E2 and not the Veeam software. So we want to make sure that we don't have this check marked. And then we hit OK. Once we've done that, we're going to select which bucket you want to use as that backup destination. And what I've done in E2 is I've created a bucket and named it Veeam test. And that's what I selected here in Veeam. And the next step would be to select a folder that you want that data to be dumped to. For this demo here, I went ahead and named it Veeam backup. And so that data will be dumped to that folder. And then one of the more important options here that you're going to see, and that's for immutability. So if we had iDrive E2, that bucket, if object lock was enabled, then you'll see this option listed. And you want to make sure that that is checkboxed to make your backups immutable. Here you can select how many days you want those backups immutable for. So this is that retention period that we were mentioning before. For the sake of the demo, I've just went ahead and put the default 30 days. So the recent backups will be immutable for up to 30 days. So that's that retention period. And once we've selected that, make sure that's enabled. Let's go ahead and hit next. Takes a little while to load, so let's just wait for that. All right, so this is where you're going to see some mount server options. So let's go over that first one. So the mount server, it's a server that's used during the restore operations, so that to mount those VM disks directly from objects in the object storage repositories. You can see here that the mount server that we're using is this server that we're remoted into. And then this option here is where you would specify the mount server cache to be stored to. So this is just cache that is created during those mount operations. And last but not least here, this is the vPower NFS service. So this is typically used only for VMware. So it's a VMware specific thing that can you use for things like instant recovery. For the sake of this demo, it doesn't really matter whether I have this enabled or not, but I'm just going to leave everything in the default settings and then hit next. And then for this, you'll see that these are just technologies or integrations that Veeam will be utilizing with this object storage. And then if this was our first time, we'd hit apply to save those changes and apply everything. But since I've already done that, I'm going to go ahead and just cancel. All right. And I just want to keep everything the same. The next thing we're going to go through is creating a backup job. So through Veeam, we're going to hit home on the left-hand side, making sure that the job section is selected. And then you can see here that there's a backup job that I've already created for the sake of the demo. But we're going to go ahead and go into that, edit it, and then go through the different options. All right, so now that this window popped up, the first thing that you're greeted with is what type of backup job. For this case, it's a server backup job. And then you're also selecting the mode. So the mode, I'm going to keep that managed by backup server. So what this means is that all those backup job operations, it's all going to be handled through this Veeam backup server. So I'm going to go ahead and hit next. And this is where you name that backup job. So for the demo, I've just went ahead and named it Veeam Test Backup. We're going to go ahead and hit next. This is where you'd select which computers you're trying to back up. This can be an individual computer, but it could also be a group of computers, which is called protection group. So that can all be done through the Veeam interface. For this demo, I've just went ahead and selected an individual computer, a server machine, put in the IP address, and then I'm going to go ahead and hit next. And now you're greeted with a few other options. In a production environment, you're probably going to select entire computer as that backup mode. But for the sake of the demo, I'm going to go ahead and select file level backup. Otherwise, we'd be waiting forever for that backup to go through. So let's go ahead and hit next. And then this is where you'd select what you're trying to back up. I went ahead and put the documents folder as what I'm trying to back up. And we're going to go ahead and hit next. And in this step here, this is where you'd select that bucket that we just added for that backup repository. This is where you'd select that as a destination. So I put this Veeam bucket as a destination. And this right here is the retention policy. And all of this is handled through the Veeam software. You can either set that to a certain number of days, or you can even put a restore point. So if you wanted like 5 restore copies to go back to. But for the sake of the demo, I just went ahead and put 7 days. I'm going to go ahead and hit next. And then here you're greeted with some guest processing options for the backup job. So there's going to be 2 options, application aware processing, as well as guest file system indexing and malware detection. So what application aware processing does for that backup job is it's going to process application logs and then create a crash consistent backup, as an example, like the SQL database. And then this option here for guest file system indexing and malware detection, what it's going to do is it's going to create a catalog of files and folders for the OS, as well as scan some backup data and obtain information about suspicious activity or if there's infected objects. For the sake of the demo, I'm just going to hit the defaults. So this is clicking on enable application aware processing. Doesn't really matter for this use case, but I'm just going to keep a checkbox. And I'm going to go ahead and hit next. And then this is where you'd schedule the backup job. So how often you want that to run. I went ahead and selected this to run every single day at midnight. And then there's also the automatic retry option. So what this is going to do is it's going to, so like if a backup fails, it's going to go ahead and attempt a retry up to 3 times. And then in between those 3 times, it's going to wait a 10-minute interval. So if the first backup fails, then it's going to attempt a backup again. And then if that fails again, then it's going to wait 10 minutes before it retries up to 3 times. All right, now we have those options selected. If this was the first time I was doing this, then you would hit apply and finish to apply those changes. But I'm just going to go ahead and hit cancel because I've already done this. And if you see from these options here, the last run was 2 hours ago and it was successful. So the backup was a success. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and demonstrate the immutability portion of iDrive E2. So we're going to go ahead and hop over to the iDrive E2 dashboard. And when we went through all those options, we've selected this bucket as the destination. So if we drill down into the data, you are going to see some weird formatting here. This is just what the Veeam software does. It formats it a certain way, but the data that is being dumped is from whatever you selected in the Veeam software. And if we go ahead and drill down, I'm going to go ahead and go inside into the data folder. So this is where the data is being housed. If I try and delete those objects here, you'll see that I'm greeted with an error because that retention period was set and the backups are immutable. So it's not allowing me to delete the data through the iDrive E2 platform. Now, if we want to just double check, make sure, I'm going to refresh the page. You'll see that the storage size has stayed the same. There's no difference. And if we drill down back into that data folder here, everything's still intact. There has been no changes. And let's just do it again for safe measure. You'll see it's not going to go through because the retention period still hasn't gone through. All right, that concludes the technical demo for the iDrive E2 and Veeam integration. And now you know how to secure your backups with both Veeam and iDrive E2 from ransomware with immutability. So that's having that bucket enabled with object lock, and then making sure that in the Veeam backup software, it's set with immutable backups. That way, the data on that bucket is not able to be tampered with, modified, deleted.
Well, thank you for the technical demo, Joel. Really informative. Thank you so much.
No problem, Daryl. No problem. And yeah.
Thanks everyone for joining the webinar. Feel free to reach out like any other information.